Hello, for this video I thought it would be nice if you could hear from some younger people. So I've done a little interview with three brothers from the southwest of England, a place called Torquay. So you can hear what the coronavirus lockdown is like from a younger perspective. Welcome to the world of Angkriz videos, Alex, Jono and Ben. Perhaps you could start by introducing yourselves.
I'm Alex Stevens, I'm 18 years old and I live in Torquay in Devon.
Hello, my name is Jono and I am 15 years old, which means I am in year 10.
My name is Ben and I am 11 years old.
What's life like for you personally during the lockdown?
My hobbies are photography and doing outdoor sports, and as a result, life in lockdown has been quite boring. I can't go outside and do photography because of the lockdown rules, and the sport I do has been very much limited. I can't go out swimming particularly, so I'm very much limited to running, walking or cycling, which I do pretty much every day, one of those three. But it can get quite boring doing the same thing every single day or going to the same places. When I'm not outside, I spend a lot of time watching TV on Netflix on my phone or talking to friends over social media. Otherwise, I am playing Xbox, and it's okay for passing the time. However, I do find it quite repetitive and boring.
It is boring and we are stuck in our houses, so we have nothing to do.
Yeah, it's weird for sure. I think the main thing is probably the boredom of staying in your house and not having a lot to do. But as long as you keep yourself occupied, it's not too bad really. For me personally, I've started an exercise routine to try and keep active, go out for runs and enjoy the sun legally. For other people who I know are also bored at home, they've started new hobbies which they can do by themselves. For example, one of my friends is using this time to begin learning how to play the guitar. Other people are using it as a time to spend time with their family that they wouldn't usually have. I think that's the same for me in a sense. We've started playing online games with our family from other households, seeing as we can't meet them, which we wouldn't usually do, and that's quite nice. However, there are also some negatives. For example, I can't go out and meet friends, I can't play cricket or football or anything like that with friends, which I would usually enjoy doing, and it could be some time before I do those things again, which is a shame. However, if you can try and turn those negatives into positives by using this time wisely to start a new hobby, or for me try and get fit, then it can be a good experience, I hope.
What's the effect been on your education personally, but also generally amongst your friends or across the country that you're aware of?
SATs is cancelled, which is great, and the end of year show, which is cancelled, is very sad.
For my education, I suppose we've not really had enough time yet to judge that. We've only really had a week on it, seeing as it's the Easter holidays at the moment anyway. But during that week it's been okay. We've been using an app called Microsoft Teams, which allows us to communicate with our teachers. They can set work on that, and if you've got any troubles you can just message them or even video call them. So it works quite well, but it's not the same experience as being in the classroom. You know, sometimes you need stuff to be demonstrated to you or whatever, but it's okay for now. I mean, who knows when we're going to go back to normal life. If it is September, then it could be that there's quite a big chunk of knowledge that's been missed out, a big chunk of learning that's been missed out. However, I'm not too worried about myself generally. I thought it was okay. I'm still able to learn. Fortunately or unfortunately enough for me, my exams are next year, not this year, so they should be okay. However, clearly some students will find home learning a lot easier than other students, and come to next year when everyone my age is sitting their exams, it could be that some people who have found the home learning a lot easier do better, and other people may not have a clue of what half the things in the exam are because they've been learning it at home and it's hard to understand when you're just reading it from a screen. I actually quite like the online schooling system because, you know, you can wake up whenever you want, just do things at your own pace, and of course still if you need, then the teachers are there for support. So it's quite good really to just work when you want, stress-free, and also factor in times for your other hobbies whenever you want. So it's quite a nice, relaxing education. But whether or not it's best for learning, I guess we'll see. Probably not.
In terms of the effect on education, I'm simply missing my international baccalaureate exams, which I would have been taking in May of this year. However, this shouldn't make too much of a difference because the board of directors on the International Baccalaureate promised us that they would provide us with our grades regardless, which they're going to work out through considering our internal assessments and our predicted grades. So otherwise I'm missing very little.
How do you think this whole lockdown will affect you in the long term and other young people in the UK?
In the long term, I'm not too sure, because I don't know how long this is going to last, how life like this is going to last. But I suppose the difference between myself and my two other brothers is that both of them are finishing their schools, either going to a new school or leaving school altogether, whereas mine, I'll go back in September, potentially, if that is when it goes back to normal. And I'll have the same teachers, the same classes, the same friends, and I suppose it'll be a bit weird, because for them it'll just be like a long holiday, but for me it's like a pause. So I'll go back, and yeah, it'll definitely be a bit weird to think that I'm not going to see some of those people for so long, and I'm going to have to, and the only faces I'm going to see are that of my family for God knows how long. I mean, some people say it's a great time to spend some time with their family, which they wouldn't normally have, but I think there's a limit to how much you can actually take spending time with your family. But yeah, I don't think for me personally it'll be too devastating in the long term, but for a lot of people it might be hard, so who knows.
A lot of people my age, it will affect them, as they will miss potentially important information that they needed for their university courses, which may have been covered in lessons. However, this isn't necessarily an issue for me because I'm not going to university. If anything, the time away from school has provided me with an opportunity to research information on activities I'm going to do during my gap year or apprenticeship that I could do beyond my gap year.
For my class and generally anyone in the school is feeling very sad right now and being bored.
Thanks guys, that was brilliant. A really interesting insight into lockdown life. I don't have a lot of time left to talk about many words now, so instead what I'm going to do is just mention a few things that I think are interesting. You can look them up to find out what they mean, but I'm just going to mention some things in relation to usage, and we can follow up in comments or whatever. The first thing is I'm passing the time. You can just use that on its own, I'm passing the time, or you can use it with an activity. I'm passing the time by reading, I'm passing the time doing sport, whatever. Interesting to compare it with I'm spending time. The phrase I have nothing to do, this means what it means, but don't confuse it with I have nothing to do with. I have nothing to do with means I'm not connected to something, so I have nothing to do with that murder that happened last night. Potentially important. You might know the word potential, using it as an adjective. This is potentially important. It's quite useful. You can use it for lots of other things as well. When something might happen or might be the case, when something is possibly going to be the case. Cancelled, that's a very straightforward word, but we hear it a lot at the moment. So it's useful to have in your vocabulary. You know, the concert was cancelled. I will cancel this concert. There has been a cancellation. An exercise routine. Routine is something you do on a regular basis. So, you know, if you're running every day or whatever, you can call that your exercise routine. The positives and negatives. You probably know positive and negative as adjectives, but you can use them as nouns. It's a bit like pros and cons, the good things and the bad things, the positives and the negatives. To not have a clue means you just don't know something, you don't know anything about it. A clue, of course, is a piece of information that leads you on to something you want to find. So a detective, for example, looks for clues. At your own pace, at your own speed, that's just a nice little phrase. And another nice little phrase is to factor in, to take account of, to include in your plans, in your calculations. And finally, not too devastating, which I think is a wonderfully British piece of understatement and irony. Of course, devastating is a really strong word. You use it when something is absolutely terrible and traumatic and disturbing and upsetting and awful. But not too devastating actually just means, you know, it's okay, I can cope, it's fine, you know, not too bad. So anyway, that's all we have time for. Contact me on social media, and I'm very happy to try and explain any of these things in more detail. Okay, bye.